Before you close your eyes tonight, let me tell you a gentle story. It is a story about a place that has been waiting for you, quietly, the way a candle waits in a window on a cold evening. You do not need to do anything to find it. You do not need to try. You only need to breathe slowly and let the words carry you there, one soft step at a time. Somewhere, past the last road you have ever driven, past the town where the street lights end and the fields begin, there is a path made of pale stone. It does not appear on any map. It does not have a name. But it has always been there, curving gently through tall grass that sways like the breathing of the earth itself. Tonight you are walking that path. The air is warm and still, the kind of warmth that feels like a blanket has been wrapped around the entire world. Above you, the sky is that particular shade of deep blue that comes only in the last moments before true night, when the horizon still holds the faintest memory of gold. A few stars have already appeared, not many, just enough to feel like someone has left small lights on for you so you would not feel alone. Your feet make almost no sound on the stone. You notice that the grass on either side of the path is dotted with tiny white flowers, each one no bigger than a fingernail, and they seem to glow faintly, as though they have gathered the last of the day's light and are holding it close. You do not know where this path leads, and for the first time in a very long time that feels perfectly fine. There is no hurry. There is no appointment waiting at the end of it. There is only the gentle curve ahead and the soft sound of crickets beginning their evening song somewhere in the distance, and the feeling that whatever lies ahead will be kind. The path begins to descend just slightly and the air grows sweeter. You can smell lavender and something like honey, and beneath that, the deep green scent of moss and rain-soaked earth. Each breath you take seems to slow your heartbeat just a little, as though your body already knows this place and is remembering how to rest. And then, ahead through a gap in a low stone wall covered in ivy, you see the first glow. It is soft and golden, like a lantern seen through fog, and it flickers gently, the way a heartbeat does when someone is almost asleep. You step through the gap in the wall and the garden opens before you. Let us continue, because the garden has so much more to show you, and the night is long, and there is nowhere else you need to be. The garden is not large, but it feels endless. It is the kind of place where distance works differently, where a short walk can feel like a journey through an entire country, and where time moves at the pace of honey dripping from a spoon. The first thing you notice is the lanterns. They are everywhere, hanging from branches, resting on low stone walls, tucked into the crooks of old trees, sitting on the edges of moss-covered steps. Each one glows with its own particular shade of gold, some warmer, some cooler, some flickering with a gentle rhythm and others burning with a steady, unwavering calm. The garden is arranged in a way that feels both wild and cared for, like someone has been tending it for a very long time but has always let the plants decide where they want it to grow. There are roses climbing over archways, their petals so dark they are almost purple, and their scent drifts toward you in slow waves. There are herbs planted in between the stepping stones, thyme and chamomile and mint, and as your feet brush against them they release their fragrance into the warm air, and you breathe it in and something in your chest loosens just a little. Between the flower beds, there are small paths made of crushed shells that gleam faintly in the lantern light, and they wind in gentle curves past bird baths filled with still water that reflects the stars above. There are benches tucked into quiet corners, old wooden benches with soft cushions left on them, as though someone knew you would come and wanted you to be comfortable. There are wind chimes hanging from the lower branches of a great willow tree, and they make a sound so soft it is almost not a sound at all, just a whisper of metal touching metal, like the memory of a song. And standing in the center of the garden, beside a stone fountain where water trickles in a thin, musical stream, there is a woman. She is old, her hair silver white and gathered loosely at the back of her neck, and she wears a long cardigan the color of oatmeal, and her hands are gentle and steady as she lifts one of the lanterns and adjusts its wick. She has not seen you yet, or perhaps she has, and she is simply giving you a moment to arrive, to let the garden settle around you before introductions are made. When she does look up, her eyes are the color of warm tea, and her smile is the kind that does not ask anything of you. It does not ask you to smile back or to explain yourself or to be any particular way. It simply says you are welcome here, and that is enough. She sets the lantern back on the edge of the fountain and folds her hands in front of her. Her name, she tells you, is Marguerite, and she has been the keeper of this garden for longer than she can remember. She speaks slowly, with long pauses between her sentences, as though each word has been chosen carefully and deserves its own moment of silence before the next one comes. This garden, she says, is a place where people come when they have been carrying too much for too long. She does not say this with pity. She says it the way someone might say the rain comes in spring or the stars come out at night. It is simply a fact, a gentle one, and hearing it does not hurt. It feels instead like being understood. She asks if you would like to walk with her for a while, and you nod, and she turns and begins to move along one of the shell paths, and her steps are so quiet that the only sound is the soft crunch beneath your own feet and the steady musical trickle of the fountain growing fainter behind you. Marguerite leads you along a path that curves beneath an archway of climbing roses, and as you pass under it, a few loose petals drift down and land softly on your shoulders, like the gentlest rain you have ever felt. She does not brush them away, and neither do you. They smell of something old and sweet, something that makes you think of a room you once loved, a room where you felt safe even if you cannot quite remember where it was. The path opens into a smaller garden within the garden, a circular space surrounded by low hedges of lavender. In the center there is a small table made of weathered wood, and on it sits a single lantern, unlit. Marguerite pauses beside it and rests her hand on the table as though greeting an old friend. Each lantern in this garden, she says, holds something. Not fire, not really. What burns inside them is a feeling, a moment, a memory that someone needed to set down for a while. She explains that people come here sometimes in dreams, sometimes in that quiet space just before sleep, and they bring with them the things they have been holding too tightly. The worries that circle in the mind like birds that cannot find a place to land. The sadness that sits in the body like a stone. The tiredness that goes deeper than the bones, the kind that sleep alone does not seem to cure. And when they come here, she says, they can place those things inside a lantern, and the lantern holds them gently, and the flame that burns is not a burning away but a burning softly, a keeping warm, a tending. She says that nothing placed in a lantern is ever lost or destroyed. It is simply held by something other than you for as long as you need. She picks up the unlit lantern and holds it out to you. It is smaller than you expected, about the size of a teacup, and it is made of something that looks like frosted glass, and it is warm to the touch, warm in the way that a stone is warm after a long afternoon in the sun. You hold it in both hands and you can feel a faint hum inside it, like a heartbeat, like it is alive and waiting. You do not have to decide right now, Marguerite says. You can carry it with you as we walk. Sometimes the things we need to let go of do not come when we call them. They come when they are ready, when they feel safe enough to leave. She smiles at you again, that same unhurried smile, and then she turns and continues down the path, and you follow, holding the small lantern against your chest, and the warmth of it spreads through your hands and into your arms and settles somewhere near your heart, and it feels like being held. The lavender hedges give way to a grove of silver birch trees, their white bark gleaming in the lantern light, and the ground beneath them is covered in soft moss that feels like velvet beneath your feet. The birch grove is quiet in a way that feels intentional, as though the trees themselves have agreed to hold the silence for anyone who enters. The branches overhead form a canopy that lets through just enough starlight to see by, and the lanterns here are fewer and farther apart, their glow softer, their flames barely flickering, as though they too are beginning to rest. Marguerite walks ahead of you, and her silver hair catches the light, and for a moment she looks like she is made of moonlight and memory, like she has been part of this garden for so long that the boundary between her and the place has grown thin and gentle. She pauses beside one of the birch trees and places her hand against its trunk, and you can see that someone has carved something into the bark, not deeply, just lightly, the way you might trace a word in sand. It says simply rest. She tells you that the trees in this grove are very old. They were planted, she says, by people who came before her, other keepers of the garden, stretching back so far that no one remembers the first one. Each keeper planted something, she says, and each thing that was planted grew in its own way, shaped by the keeper's particular kind of tenderness. One planted the roses. One planted the lavender. One dug the fountain and filled it with water from a spring that runs beneath the garden, water so clean and cold that it tastes like the first morning of the world. And the birch trees, she says, were planted by a keeper who understood that sometimes the most important thing a person can do is simply stand still. The birch trees do not try to grow taller than each other. They do not reach for the sun with any urgency. They simply stand and breathe and let the years pass through them like wind through an open window. You lean against one of the trees and feel the bark against your back, cool and smooth, and the little lantern in your hands pulses gently, and you realize that your breathing has slowed without your trying. It has matched itself to the rhythm of this place, the way a sleeping child's breathing matches the heartbeat of the person holding them. Marguerite sits on a fallen log nearby and she folds her hands in her lap and she is quiet for a while. The silence between you is not empty. It is full of small sounds, the rustle of leaves, the distant trickle of the fountain, the soft creak of branches, the almost inaudible hum of the lanterns. It is the kind of silence that does not need to be filled, the kind that feels like a conversation in its own right, a conversation that says, I am here and you are here and that is enough. After a time she speaks again. She tells you about the first night she came to the garden. She was younger then, she says, though not young. She had been a teacher for many years and then a mother and then a grandmother, and somewhere along the way she had forgotten how to sleep. Not the kind of forgetting that comes from a busy schedule or a late cup of coffee. The kind that comes from the inside, from a place so deep that no amount of warm milk or soft pillows could reach it. She would lie awake at night and feel the weight of every decision she had ever made, every word she had said that she wished she could take back, every moment she had missed because she was looking the other way. And then one night she found the path. She found the path the same way you did, Marguerite says, by not looking for it. She had gone for a walk in the evening, something she did when the house felt too still and the bed felt too wide, and she had walked farther than she meant to, past the end of her street, past the park, past the last house with its porch light on, and then suddenly the pavement was gone and there was only pale stone beneath her feet and tall grass on either side, and the sky was turning that deep, deep blue. She followed the path because there was nothing else to do, and because it felt like it wanted her to follow it, the way a song wants to be sung, not with force but with invitation. And when she stepped through the gap in the stone wall and saw the lanterns for the first time, she wept. Not from sadness, she says, but from relief. The kind of relief that comes when you have been holding your breath for so long that you have forgotten you were holding it, and then suddenly you exhale and everything in your body softens at once. The keeper of the garden at that time was a man named Oren, she says, and he was very old and very quiet, and he had a way of looking at you that made you feel like every part of you was welcome, even the parts you had tried to hide. He gave her a lantern just as she has given you one, and he walked with her through the garden just as she is walking with you, and by the time the walk was over, the lantern in her hands was glowing. She had not meant to put anything in it. She had not even been thinking about it. But somewhere along the way, in the softness of the garden, in the safety of the silence, something had slipped out of her and into the glass, and the lantern had caught it and held it and begun to burn with a gentle flame, and she had felt lighter than she had felt in years. When Oren passed, she became the keeper. It was not a decision she made so much as a knowing she received, the way you know when a season is changing, not because anyone tells you but because the air feels different and the light shifts and something in the earth stirs. She simply woke up one morning and understood that the garden was hers to tend, and she has been here ever since, watering the flowers, trimming the hedges, adjusting the lantern wicks, and waiting for the people who need to come. She looks at you now in the birch grove with the starlight filtering down through the white branches, and she says, "You are one of the people who needed to come." And the way she says it does not make you feel broken. It makes you feel found. She stands slowly and brushes the moss from her cardigan, and she gestures for you to follow, and you do, deeper into that glow like small warm hearts. Garden, and the path ahead is soft and winding and lit by lanterns. The path leads you out of the birch grove and into a part of the garden where the flowers grow taller and closer together, as though they are leaning in to listen. There are foxgloves here, standing in graceful rows, their bell-shaped blossoms nodding gently in a breeze you can barely feel. There are delphiniums the color of a twilight sky, and tall stalks of hollyhock in shades of pink so soft they look like they have been painted with watercolors. Everything here is gentle. Everything here bends but does not break. Marguerite walks ahead, and her hand brushes the tops of the flowers as she passes, and they sway toward her touch the way a cat leans into a kind hand. She tells you that this part of the garden is called the listening meadow, because the flowers here have a particular gift. They listen. Not to words, she says, but to the things beneath words. The feelings that live in the chest and the belly and the throat. The things you carry that do not have names, or that have names so heavy you cannot bring yourself to say them out loud. She says that if you sit among these flowers for a while and let yourself be still, the flowers will lean toward you the way they are leaning toward her now, and they will listen, and something about being listened to, truly listened to, even by something that cannot speak, makes the burden feel lighter. It is the same reason, she says, that people talk to the ocean or to the mountains or to the sky just before it rains. It is not because they expect an answer. It is because the act of being heard, even without words, is one of the oldest medicines there is. You find a place to sit, and the grass beneath you is so thick and soft that it feels like a cushion someone has placed there for you. The foxgloves lean toward you just slightly, and the delphiniums sway, and the hollyhocks stand tall around you like kind sentinels, and you are surrounded by color and fragrance and the quiet sound of petals touching petals. The lantern in your hands grows a little warmer. You hold it close and you breathe, and the breath goes deeper than it has gone in a long time, all the way down to the bottom of your lungs, to the place where you have been keeping the tight knot of your exhaustion. And as you breathe out, the knot loosens just a little, not all at once, but enough to notice. Enough to feel the difference. Marguerite stands at the edge of the meadow and watches with quiet eyes. He does not rush you. He does not tell you what to feel or how to feel it. She simply stands and holds the space, the way the garden holds the lanterns, with patience and warmth and the gentle understanding that healing comes in its own time. The evening deepens around you. A moth drifts past, its wings dusted with silver, and it circles the lantern in your hands once, twice, 3 times, and then floats away into the meadow. You watch it go and you feel something stir inside you, not quite a memory, not quite a thought, but something older than both, a feeling like homesickness, except that what you are homesick for is not a place but a version of yourself that you have not been in a very long time. The version of you that could rest. The version that could close your eyes and simply let go. You press the lantern closer to your heart, and the glass fogs faintly with the warmth of you, and the flowers lean just a little closer, and the garden is patient, and the night is kind. When you are ready and there is no rush, you stand, and the flowers sway gently as if saying goodbye, and Marguerite smiles and turns and leads you farther along the path. The listening meadow fades behind you like a dream that stays warm in the chest even after you have woken from it, and the path takes you now toward the sound of water. It is a soft sound, softer than a river, quieter than a stream. It is the sound of water dripping slowly, steadily, into a deep and still place. The path curves around a large stone covered in soft green moss, and beyond it you see a pond. It is small and perfectly round, as though someone drew a circle in the earth and filled it with night sky. The surface of the water is so still that it holds the reflections of the stars above with perfect clarity, and for a moment you cannot tell where the water ends and the sky begins. Around the edge of the pond, lanterns sit on flat stones, and their reflections float on the water like small golden boats. The light they cast is gentle and warm, and it makes the water look like liquid amber near the edges, darkening to a deep, peaceful blue at the center. A willow tree stands at the far side, its long branches trailing down like curtains, their tips just barely touching the surface of the water. "This is the mirror pond," Marguerite says, and her voice is even softer now, as though the pond asks for a particular kind of quietness. She tells you that the water here does not reflect what you look like on the outside. It reflects what you feel like on the inside. She says this gently, with no drama, as though it is the most natural thing in the world. And in this garden it is. She invites you to sit at the edge and you lower yourself onto one of the flat stones. And the stone is warm, the way everything in this garden seems to be warm, as though the earth itself is trying to comfort you. You look into the water and at first you see only the stars and the golden glow of the lanterns. But then slowly the surface shifts, not with ripples but with something more like the way fog clears on a quiet morning, and you begin to see. What you see is not a face. It is more like a landscape of feeling. You see a wide, quiet field beneath a heavy sky, and the field is gray and still, and there is a tiredness in it that you recognize. It is your tiredness. Not the tiredness of a long day or a hard week. The tiredness that has lived inside you for so long that you have started to think it is simply part of who you are. But as you look, the sky in the reflection begins to lighten. Just barely, just a shade, like the first suggestion of dawn in a sky that has been dark for a very long time. And you feel something in your chest respond, a small lifting, a small opening like a window being raised just enough to let in the air. You sit by the mirror pond for a long while, and Marguerite sits beside you, not speaking, just being there, her presence as steady and calming as the warmth of a banked fire. The reflection in the water continues to change slowly, the way seasons change, not in sudden leaps but in gradual, almost imperceptible shifts. The gray field lightens. A few small flowers appear, scattered like confetti after a celebration. The sky grows warmer. And with each change, you feel something ease inside you, like a door that has been stuck for years finally beginning to open on its hinges. You realize that you are not watching the reflection change. You are feeling it change. The pond is not showing you something separate from you. It is showing you what is already happening inside you, right now, in this garden, in this gentle night, as your body remembers what it feels like to be somewhere safe. Marguerite speaks, and her voice blends with the sound of the water, and the words feel like they are coming from inside the garden itself. She tells you that many people who come here are afraid to look in the mirror pond. They are afraid of what they will see. They expect to see something broken or wrong, some proof that the way they have been feeling is a failure of some kind, a flaw in their design. But that is never what the pond shows, she says. The pond only shows what is true, and what is true is always simpler and kinder than what we fear. She tells you that the tiredness you carry is not a weakness. It is a sign that you have been brave for a very long time, that you have kept going when keeping going was hard, that you have held things together when they wanted to fall apart. And the reason you are tired is not because something is wrong with you. It is because you have been doing the work of many people with the energy of one, and you have not stopped to rest, not truly, not in the deep way that rest requires. The garden knows this, she says. That is why it called you here tonight. Not to fix you because you are not broken, but to hold you for a while so that you do not have to hold yourself. The lantern in your hands flickers and you feel a warmth spread from it into your palms, into your wrists, up through your arms and into your shoulders, where you have been carrying the tension of months, perhaps years. And as the warmth reaches your shoulders, they drop just a fraction of an inch, and that tiny release feels enormous, like setting down a suitcase you did not realize you were carrying. You close your eyes and the sound of the water is there, and the smell of the garden is there, and the warmth of the lantern is there, and Marguerite's quiet presence is there, and for a moment, just a moment, you feel the edges of something that you have not felt in a long time. You feel peace. Not the absence of pain. Not the absence of worry. But peace, real peace, the kind that exists alongside everything else, the kind that does not need the world to be perfect in order to arrive. When you open your eyes, the garden has grown darker, but not in a way that feels frightening. It is the kind of darkness that feels like a blanket being drawn up to your chin, the kind that says, the day is over now, you can stop, you can rest. The lanterns glow more brightly against the deeper sky, and the stars above are thick and close, as though the sky has lowered itself to be near you. Marguerite stands and offers you her hand, and you take it, and her hand is warm and dry and steady, and she helps you to your feet with a gentleness that makes you think of all the kind hands that have ever helped you, every hand that has ever steadied you when you were unsteady, every hand that has ever been offered without condition simply because you needed it. She leads you away from the pond and along a path that climbs gently upward, through a grove of apple trees whose branches are heavy with fruit. The apples are not red or green but a deep, warm gold, and they glow faintly in the lantern light, and the smell of them is rich and sweet, like cider warming on a stove. Marguerite reaches up and picks one and she holds it out to you and you take it and its skin is smooth and warm, and when you bite into it the juice is sweet and cool and tastes like autumn felt when you were a child, like that particular combination of crisp air and warm sweaters and the feeling that something good was coming. The path continues upward and the apple trees give way to a clearing on a low hill, and from here you can see the entire garden spread out below you. A patchwork of glowing lanterns and dark hedges and silver paths, with the mirror pond shining like a coin in the center and the fountain's thin stream of water catching the light. It is beautiful in the way that simple things are beautiful, not because it is trying to impress you but because it is exactly what it is, completely without apology. Marguerite sits on the grass beside you and you sit too, and the grass here is thick and dry and fragrant, and the earth beneath it is solid and warm. She tells you that from this hill on clear nights, you can sometimes see the lanterns of other gardens far away on the edges of the horizon. Other gardens tended by other keepers, other places of rest and safety and gentle healing, scattered across the world like seeds in a wide field. She says that the world has always had these places, even when no one knew about them, even when no one came. The gardens tend themselves when they need to, she says. They are patient. They can wait 100 years for someone to walk through the gate, and the lanterns will still be burning when they arrive. You look out across the garden and you feel the smallness of yourself in the largeness of the night, but it is not a frightening smallness. It is a held smallness. The smallness of a child cradled in strong arms, knowing that the arms will not let go. From the hilltop, the garden below looks like a constellation that has fallen to earth and decided to stay. Each lantern is a point of light, and together they form a pattern that shifts gently as the flames flicker, so that the garden seems to breathe, expanding and contracting like the chest of something enormous and peaceful that is sleeping just beneath the surface of the world. Marguerite tells you a story. She tells it the way she does everything, slowly, with warmth, with pauses that feel like rests in a piece of music. She tells you about a woman who came to the garden many years ago, on a night very much like this one. The woman had not slept properly in months. She had tried everything, the teas, the pills, the meditations, the white noise, the weighted blankets, the breathing exercises. Nothing had worked. Every night she lay in bed and stared at the ceiling and felt the minutes stretch into hours and the hours stretch into something that felt like forever. She came to the garden exhausted and afraid, Marguerite says. Afraid not just of the sleeplessness but of what the sleeplessness was doing to her, the way it was eroding her patience and her joy and her ability to feel like herself. She had started to think that the person she used to be, the person who could laugh easily and wake up refreshed and look forward to the day, was gone, and that this new version of herself, this hollow, exhausted, anxious version, was all that was left. Marguerite gave her a lantern as she gives everyone a lantern and walked with her through the garden as she is walking with you. And the woman held the lantern and she walked, and she listened to the fountain and smelled the flowers and felt the warm grass beneath her feet, and slowly, so slowly she almost did not notice it happening, she began to cry. Not great heaving sobs, but quiet tears, the kind that come when something that has been frozen inside you begins finally to thaw. And as she cried, the lantern in her hands began to glow. The tears were not just water and salt. They were carrying something, releasing something, and the lantern received it all with its quiet flame, and by the time the woman's tears had stopped, the lantern was burning brightly and the woman's shoulders had dropped and her jaw had unclenched and her breathing had deepened, and she looked up at the sky and saw the stars as though she were seeing them for the first time. She slept that night, Marguerite says. Not because the garden cast a spell or performed a miracle, but because the garden gave her permission to stop fighting. Permission to stop trying so hard to sleep and instead simply to rest. And rest, she says, is not the same as sleep, but it is the door through which sleep enters. When you stop guarding the door, when you stop standing in front of it with your arms crossed, demanding that sleep come now, this instant, on your terms, sleep can finally approach. It comes softly like a shy animal when it trusts that you will not grab at it. You sit on the hilltop and you think about what Marguerite has said, and the words settle into you the way rain settles into dry earth, slowly, deeply, finding the cracks and filling them. The lantern in your hands is warmer now, noticeably warmer, and you can see, if you look closely, the faintest flicker of light inside the glass. No bigger than the flame of a birthday candle, but they're unmistakably there. Marguerite notices it too, and she nods, and her nod is not triumphant or excited. It is gentle and unsurprised, the way a gardener nods when the first green shoot appears from the soil, knowing that it was coming, knowing that the seed only needed time and warmth and care. She tells you it is time to visit the canopy room, and she stands and offers you her hand again, and you take it, and together you descend the far side of the hill along a path lined with low-growing rosemary that releases its scent with each step. The path curves through a gate made of twisted branches woven together like fingers interlaced, and beyond the gate is a space that makes your breath catch, not with surprise but with wonder, the quiet, wide-eyed wonder of a child seeing snow for the first time. The canopy room is a grove of ancient trees, oaks and maples and elms, whose branches have grown together high above to form a living ceiling. Lanterns hang from the branches on long, thin chains, and they sway gently, casting slow-moving patterns of light and shadow across the floor of the grove. The floor is covered in a thick carpet of fallen leaves, dry and soft and rustling faintly, and among the leaves there are blankets. Soft, thick, heavy blankets in shades of cream and sage and dusty rose, spread out like nests, each one arranged around a lantern that sits at its center. This is where people come to rest, Marguerite says. Not to sleep, she clarifies, because the word sleep can carry so much pressure for those who struggle with it. Just to rest. To lie down and be still and let the garden hold them. Some people fall asleep here, she says, and some do not, and both are perfectly fine, because the point is not the sleeping. The point is the letting go. She guides you to one of the blanket nests, and you lower yourself onto it, and the blanket is the softest thing you have ever felt, softer than anything you could buy in a store, because it is not made of fabric alone. It is made of the same stuff as the garden, the same gentle magic that turns firelight into feeling and water into mirrors and flowers into listeners. You sink into it, and the leaves beneath crinkle softly, and the warmth of the blanket folds around you, and the lantern beside you glows with a steady golden light, and above you the branches sway in a rhythm so slow it is almost hypnotic. You place your own lantern beside the one already there, and you notice that the small flame inside yours has grown a little, just a little, and its light is a warm amber, and watching it is like watching a heartbeat made visible, steady and alive and unhurried. Marguerite drapes another blanket over your legs, tucking it gently at the edges, and the weight of it is comforting in the way that being held is comforting, not confining but containing, like a gentle reminder of your own edges, your own shape, your own place in the world. You lie in the canopy room, and the world above you is a ceiling of leaves and lanterns, and stars glimpse through the gaps, and it is the most beautiful ceiling you have ever seen. The leaves shift softly in the breeze, and the lanterns sway, and the patterns of light move across your blanket like slow, golden waves on a dark shore. Marguerite sits nearby, not far, just at the edge of your blanket nest, and she hums. It is not a song you recognize. It is barely a melody at all. It is more like a vibration, a low, warm sound that seems to come not from her throat but from the earth itself, rising up through the leaves and the blankets and into your body, settling into your bones the way warmth settles into a cold house when the fire is finally lit. The humming reminds you of something. You cannot place it exactly, but it lives somewhere in the oldest part of your memory, in the place where sounds and smells and feelings are stored without words. It might be the sound your mother made when she was cooking. It might be the sound of a car engine on a long drive when you were small, your cheek pressed against the cool window, the world sliding past in a blur of green and gold. It might be the sound of the wind in a particular tree outside a particular window in a house you lived in once, a house where you felt safe. Whatever it is, it loosens something. The humming reaches the places that words cannot reach, the tight, hidden places where you keep the things you do not talk about, the losses and the fears and the small, daily disappointments that accumulate like dust, barely noticeable one by one but heavy when you finally try to brush them away. You feel your body grow heavier, not with fatigue but with surrender. It is the kind of heaviness that comes when you stop trying to float and let the water hold you. Your shoulders press more deeply into the blanket. Your hands, which have been holding the lantern, open slightly, and the lantern rests beside you, its flame glowing steadily. Your jaw loosens. The muscles around your eyes soften. The tiny furrow between your brows, the one that has been there for so long that you have forgotten it is there, smooths out just slightly, just enough. Marguerite's humming continues, and it is joined now by other sounds, the garden sounds, the crickets and the water and the wind, all weaving together into a kind of lullaby that has no beginning and no end, that simply exists, the way the night exists, the way the stars exist, not for any purpose, not trying to accomplish anything, just being quietly, endlessly, gently. You close your eyes. Not because you are trying to sleep. You close them because the inside of your eyelids feels more natural than the outside right now, because the darkness behind your eyes is not empty but full of warmth and color and the feeling of being held by something larger and kinder than yourself. With your eyes closed, the garden becomes a place you experience through feeling alone. You feel the blanket against your skin, the warmth of the lanterns, the cool thread of breeze that weaves through the canopy. You feel the earth beneath you, solid and patient, holding you the way it holds the mountains and the oceans and the roots of every tree. You feel the slow pulse of the garden itself, a rhythm you did not notice when your eyes were open but that is unmistakable now, a deep, slow, heartbeat-like rhythm that seems to come from everywhere at once. Marguerite's voice comes to you as though from a great distance, though she is still sitting close. She tells you another story, and this one is simpler than the last and softer, like a story told to a child who is almost asleep. A story designed not to excite or to thrill but to accompany, to be a gentle companion on the journey from waking to rest. She tells you about a river that flows through a valley far from here, a river so slow that it barely seems to move. The water in this river, she says, is the color of tea, clear and golden brown, and it flows over smooth stones that have been rounded by centuries of patience. The banks of the river are lined with willow trees, and their branches trail in the water like long green hair, and the fish in the river are small and silver and they swim in slow circles, as though they too have adopted the river's unhurried pace. Along the banks of this river, she says, there grows a particular kind of moss, thick and emerald green, and it is so soft that if you were to lie down on it, you would feel as though you were lying on a cloud. And in the evenings, when the sun has set and the air is cool and still, the moss begins to glow very faintly, a soft green phosphorescence that turns the riverbanks into corridors of gentle light. No one knows why the moss glows, she says. Some say it is because the river carries starlight in its water, and the moss absorbs it and gives it back to the night as a gift. Some say it is because the earth in that valley is very old and very loved, and the love has seeped into everything that grows there. And some say it is simply because beauty does not need a reason, that some things glow simply because glowing is their nature, the way some people are kind simply because kindness is theirs. She tells you to imagine yourself lying on that moss beside that slow river under a sky full of stars, and the glow of the moss is beneath you and around you, and the sound of the water is in your ears, and the air smells like wet stone and green leaves and the clean, simple fragrance of a world that is at peace with itself. You do not have to imagine very hard. The garden helps you. It is good at this, at blurring the line between here and there, between story and feeling, between the world as it is and the world as you need it to be. The story of the river fades softly, the way a painting fades at its edges, and you are back in the canopy room, though back is not quite right because you never really left. The garden holds all its stories inside itself, like a house holds its rooms, and moving between them is not a journey but a settling, a sinking deeper into the same warm place. Marguerite is still humming, or perhaps she stopped and started again, or perhaps the humming never stopped and you simply drifted away from it for a while and have now drifted back. Time in the garden does not move in a line. It moves in circles like the slow spiral of a leaf falling from a high branch, turning and turning in the air, in no hurry to reach the ground. You feel the lantern beside you, and without opening your eyes, you know that its flame has grown. Not because you can see it through your closed eyelids, but because you can feel it, a warmth that radiates from it like the warmth of a small sun, steady and generous and kind. Something has left you and entered the lantern, and you do not know what it is, not exactly, but you know how it felt. It felt like setting down a heavy bag after a long walk uphill. It felt like unclenching a fist you had forgotten you were making. It felt like the first easy breath after a long cry. Marguerite tells you that this is how the lanterns work. They do not take. They receive. There is a difference, she says, and the difference matters. Taking is what the world does when it asks too much of you, when it demands your time and your energy and your patience and your love without giving anything back. Receiving is what happens when you offer something freely and it is held with care. The lanterns receive what you are ready to release, and they hold it gently, and the flame that burns is a sign that what you have given is being transformed, not destroyed but changed, from weight into warmth, from burden into light. You do not need to understand it fully, she says. You do not need to analyze it or name it or figure out how it works. You only need to let it happen. And the letting is the hardest part, she knows. The letting is what brought you here tonight, to this garden, to this canopy of leaves and lanterns, to this blanket and this warmth and this ancient, patient place. Because somewhere inside you, you were ready to let something go. And the garden heard that readiness the way a mother hears her child's breathing change in the next room. And it responded, and it opened its gate, and it lit the path, and here you are. Here you are. Held. Warm. Safe. And the night is not something to endure. It is something to rest inside of, the way a seed rests inside the earth, not because it has given up but because it knows that rest is how growing happens. Unclenching a fist you had forgotten you were making. It felt like the first easy breath after a long cry. Marguerite tells you that this is how the lanterns work. They do not take. They receive. There is a difference, she says, and the difference matters. Taking is what the world does when it asks too much of you, when it demands your time and your energy and your patience and your love without giving anything back. Receiving is what happens when you offer something freely and it is held with care. The lanterns receive what you are ready to release, and they hold it gently, and the flame that burns is a sign that what you have given is being transformed, not destroyed but changed, from weight into warmth, from burden into light. You do not need to understand it fully, she says. You do not need to analyze it or name it or figure out how it works. You only need to let it happen. And the letting is the hardest part, she knows. The letting is what brought you here tonight, to this garden, to this canopy of leaves and lanterns, to this blanket and this warmth and this ancient, patient place. Because somewhere inside you, you were ready to let something go. And the garden heard that readiness the way a mother hears her child's breathing change in the next room. And it responded, and it opened its gate, and it lit the path, and here you are. Here you are. Held. Warm. Safe. And the night is not something to endure. It is something to rest inside of, the way a seed rests inside the earth, not because it has given up but because it knows that rest is how growing happens. Time passes in the canopy room. It passes the way clouds pass across the face of the moon, slowly, gently, with no sense of urgency. You drift between awareness and something softer than awareness, a state that is not quite sleep and not quite waking but something in between, like floating in warm water with your eyes closed, aware of the water holding you but not thinking about it, just feeling it. Marguerite's voice comes and goes like a tide. Sometimes it is there, telling you soft things, small things, the names of the trees above you, the age of the oldest lantern in the garden, the way the roses bloom at midnight on Midsummer's Eve, opening all at once like 100 small mouths exhaling. And sometimes her voice is gone and there is only the sound of the garden, the deep, living hum of a place that has been breathing for a very long time. She tells you about the moths. The garden has its own moths, she says, and they are different from the moths outside. They are larger, and their wings are the color of moonstone, translucent and shimmering, and they move through the air with a slowness that defies gravity, as though the air in the garden is thicker, gentler, more willing to hold things aloft. The moths visit the lanterns, she says, drawn by the light, and they circle each one in slow, hypnotic spirals, and their wings make a sound so soft it is barely a sound at all, a whisper of silk against silk, a rustle like the turning of a very old page. She says that some people believe the moths are the garden's way of dreaming, that the garden, like all living things, needs to dream, and it dreams through its moths, sending them out into the lantern light to dance the garden's dreams into being. She does not say whether she believes this or not. She says it the way one might say some people believe that the ocean remembers every ship that has ever sailed upon it, or that the stars are holes in the floor of heaven. She says it as though belief itself is a kind of beauty regardless of whether it is true. A moth lands on the edge of your lantern. You open your eyes just barely, just enough to see it through your lashes, and it is the most delicate thing you have ever seen. Its wings pulse slowly, opening and closing with the rhythm of the lantern's flame, and the patterns on its wings look like frost on a window, intricate and random and perfect. It sits there for a long moment, as though resting, as though it too has found this blanket nest and decided to stay, and then it lifts off and drifts away, and you close your eyes again and the image of it stays behind your eyelids, glowing faintly like a small and gentle dream. The canopy room holds you, and the moths drift and the lanterns glow, and somewhere far above the canopy the moon is crossing the sky, and its light filters down through the leaves in thin, silver threads, and the threads weave patterns on the blankets and on your skin, and you are part of the pattern, you are woven into it, part of the garden's quiet dream. After a time that cannot be measured, Marguerite gently touches your shoulder, and the touch is so light it is like the landing of one of the garden's moths, barely there, just enough to call you back from wherever you have drifted. She tells you there is one more place she would like to show you if you are willing, and you nod, though your body is heavy and warm and reluctant to leave the nest of blankets. She helps you sit up slowly, and the movement feels like waking from a nap on a Sunday afternoon, that particular slowness, that reluctance to rejoin the waking world, that sweet heaviness in the limbs. You pick up your lantern and you see that the flame inside has grown again. It is the size of a real candle flame now, and it burns with a warm, steady light that casts a small circle of gold around your hands. Marguerite leads you out of the canopy room through a different path than the one you entered by, and this path is narrower and softer, lined on both sides with tall ferns that brush against your arms as you pass, their fronds cool and damp with dew. The air here is cooler too, and it carries the scent of night-blooming jasmine, a scent so sweet and so deep that it seems to enter you not through your nose but through your skin, soaking into you the way perfume soaks into silk. The path descends gently, and the ferns give way to a meadow of long grass that reaches your waist, and the grass is silver in the moonlight, and it moves in slow waves, as though a great hand is passing over it, smoothing it the way you might smooth a child's hair. You walk through it and the grass parts for you and closes behind you, and the feeling of it against your hands is like running your fingers through cool water. At the far edge of the meadow there is a cottage. It is small and old and made of stone, with a thatched roof that sags gently in the middle, and a chimney from which a thin thread of smoke rises, barely visible against the stars. The windows are lit from within by a warm amber glow, and the front door is slightly open, and from inside comes the smell of something baking, something made of flour and butter and honey and thyme. This is the resting house, Marguerite says. This is where the night ends for those who come to the garden. Not every visitor reaches it, she says. Some find their rest in the canopy room or beside the mirror pond or in the listening meadow, and that is perfect. But for those who walk this far, the resting house is waiting, and it has been waiting for a long time, and it is very glad you have come. She pushes the door open, and the warmth that spills out is like being embraced by the house itself. You step inside, and the stone floor is smooth and warm beneath your feet, and the ceiling is low and beamed with dark wood, and there is a fire burning in a wide stone hearth, and the fire is not loud or crackling but soft and low, its flames moving with the same slow rhythm as everything in the garden, as though even the fire here has learned to be gentle. The resting house is a single room, and it holds everything you need and nothing more. There is the fire. There is a large, deep armchair beside the fire, upholstered in soft, faded fabric the color of old roses, with a quilt draped over its back. There is a small wooden table beside the chair, and on it sits a cup of something warm, steam rising from it in slow, lazy spirals. There is a bookshelf against one wall, filled with books whose spines are soft with age, their titles barely legible, and you have the feeling that these are not books meant to be read but books meant to be near, their presence a comfort in itself, the way the presence of familiar things is always a comfort. There is a bed. It is in the far corner of the room beneath a window that looks out onto the garden, and it is the most inviting bed you have ever seen. The mattress is thick and soft, and the sheets are white and clean and smell of lavender and sunshine, and the blankets piled on top are heavy and warm, in shades of cream and gray and the soft blue of a winter morning sky. The pillows are plump and arranged with care, as though someone has fluffed them moments before you arrived, knowing exactly how you like to sleep. Marguerite gestures toward the armchair and you sit, and the chair receives you the way only a very old, very soft chair can, molding itself to your shape, supporting you in all the places that need support, giving way in all the places that need to sink. You feel as though the chair has been waiting for you specifically, as though it was built with your exact measurements of tiredness in mind. She hands you the cup from the table and you wrap your hands around it, and the warmth of it is immediate and perfect. You bring it to your lips and the steam touches your face and you drink, and the liquid is not quite tea and not quite anything else you can name. It tastes like chamomile and honey and something floral, something that might be rose or might be elderflower, and beneath it all there is a warmth that goes deeper than the physical, a warmth that spreads through your chest and down into your belly and into your legs and your feet and the tips of your toes, a warmth that says, you are safe, you are held, you can let go now. Marguerite sits in a small wooden chair on the other side of the fire, and she picks up a ball of yarn and a pair of knitting needles and she begins to knit. The needles make a soft, rhythmic clicking, and the sound is steady and gentle and meditative, and it blends with the sound of the fire and the sound of your own breathing, and together they form a rhythm that is like a heartbeat, like the heartbeat of the resting house itself, slow and sure and endlessly patient. She knits and the fire burns and you drink the warm liquid and the night wraps around the cottage like a shawl, and you feel the last traces of tension leaving your body, draining away like water through sand, leaving behind only softness, only stillness, only the deep and total peace of a body that has finally been given permission to stop. The fire shifts and settles, sending a small cascade of sparks up the chimney, and each spark glows for a moment against the dark stones before winking out, like tiny stars being born and dying in the space of a breath. You watch them, and the watching is effortless, the way watching water is effortless, or watching clouds, or watching the way light changes on a wall as the sun moves across the sky. Marguerite knits, and her hands move with the sureness of long practice, and the thing she is making is small and soft, perhaps a scarf, perhaps a blanket for a child, and the yarn is the color of moonlight, silvery and pale. She does not look at her work. She looks at the fire, or at you, or at nothing in particular, and there is a contentment in her face that you envy for a moment and then realize you do not need to envy because you are beginning to feel it yourself, this same contentment, this same quiet satisfaction of being exactly where you are supposed to be. She tells you in her soft and unhurried way that the resting house has been here for as long as the garden, maybe longer. She says that every keeper has lived in it, and that the chair you are sitting in has held every tired body that has ever found its way through the garden gate, and that the bed in the corner has cradled every weary head, and that the fire has never gone out, not once, not in all the years and all the nights and all the long, patient centuries of waiting. She tells you that the house knows things. It knows what kind of warmth you need, whether it is the warmth of fire or the warmth of blankets or the warmth of company or the warmth of solitude. It knows how much light to let in through the window and how much darkness to keep. It knows the exact weight of blanket that will make you feel held without feeling trapped, and the exact softness of pillow that will let your neck release the tension it has been holding since you cannot remember when. And it knows, she says, when you are ready. Ready not to sleep, because the house, like the garden, does not use that word with any pressure. Ready to rest. Ready to let the night be what it is, not an enemy to be fought or a problem to be solved, but a gift to be received. The night is not the absence of day, she says. It is its own thing, complete and whole and generous. It offers darkness the way the day offers light, and the darkness is not empty. It is full of rest, the way a seed is full of a tree, the way silence is full of music that has not yet begun. You listen to her words and they settle over you like the quilt draped over the back of the chair, soft and warm and exactly the right weight, The cup in your hands is nearly empty now, and the last sip is the sweetest, and you set the cup down on the table and lean back in the chair, and the chair holds you and the fire warms you and the knitting needles click their gentle rhythm. The lantern you have been carrying all evening sits on the table beside the empty cup, and its flame is strong and steady now, a warm golden light that casts a glow across the room. You look at it and you feel a quiet pride, not the loud kind of pride that comes from accomplishment, but the softer kind that comes from having been brave enough to let something go. You do not know exactly what is inside the lantern, what feelings or worries or tired, heavy things slipped out of you and into the glass during your walk through the garden. And Marguerite is right that you do not need to know. What matters is that the lantern is full and you are lighter, and the exchange feels fair, feels generous, feels like grace. Marguerite sets down her knitting and stands, and she takes the lantern from the table and carries it to the window. She opens the window just a few inches, and a breath of cool night air enters the room, carrying the scent of the garden, the roses and the lavender and the moss and the clean ancient smell of stone. She places the lantern on the windowsill, and its light shines outward into the garden, joining the constellation of lanterns already burning there. She tells you that your lantern will burn for as long as it needs to. Some burn for a night. Some burn for a week. Some burn for years. The garden tends them all. And sometimes, she says, people come back and visit their lanterns and they find that the flame has changed, grown softer, cooler, calmer, because the feeling inside has been transformed by the gentle alchemy of time and care, and what was once a burden has become simply a memory, and what was once a memory has become simply a light. She turns back to you and her face is lit by the fire on one side and the lantern light from the window on the other, and she looks like a painting from a very old book, the kind of painting that shows a grandmother in a cottage tending a fire, keeping watch while the world sleeps. She tells you it is time, if you are ready, to move to the bed. Not to sleep, she says again with that gentle emphasis. Just to lie down. Just to let the bed hold you. Just to be horizontal, which is itself a kind of surrender, a kind of trust, a willingness to let gravity do its work and to stop holding yourself upright. You stand, and the movement is slow and heavy, and you cross the room to the bed, and with each step the warmth of the fire follows you, and the soft click of the knitting needles resumes behind you, and you lower yourself onto the mattress and it receives you with a sigh, a deep, soft exhalation of feathers and cotton and the accumulated rest of everyone who has ever lain here before you. You pull the blankets up to your chin, and the weight of them is perfect, exactly the weight your body has been asking for, and the pillow beneath your head is soft and cool on one side and warm on the other, and you turn it to the cool side and feel the relief of it against your cheek, and you exhale, a long, slow breath that carries the last of your resistance out of your body and into the room, where it dissolves like smoke in still air. The bed is a world unto itself. It is warm and soft and bounded on all sides by the gentle weight of blankets, and lying in it feels like floating in a warm sea, a sea with no waves, no currents, no shore to reach, just endless, quiet water holding you at the surface with effortless calm. Your body sinks into the mattress and the mattress presses back, gently, supportively, cradling the curves and angles of you, the tired shoulders and the aching back and the heavy legs and the feet that have carried you so far. Through the window beside the bed you can see the garden. The lanterns glow in the darkness like a field of earthbound stars, and among them your own lantern burns on the windowsill, its light a warm amber beacon. The moon has risen higher and its light pours through the window and pools on the bed like liquid silver, and where it touches the blankets it makes them glow faintly, and you feel as though you are lying in a bath of moonlight, and the moonlight is healing something, not curing it but soothing it the way a cool cloth soothes a fever. From across the room the sound of Marguerite's knitting continues, steady and sure, and the fire crackles softly, and these two sounds braid together into a rhythm that is the most comforting thing you have ever heard. It is the sound of someone being present while you rest. The sound of not being alone. It does not ask anything of you. It does not require you to be awake or asleep or anything at all. It simply exists, a backdrop of care, a soundtrack of quiet devotion. Your eyes are closed now and they are not straining to close or fighting to open. They are simply closed, naturally, easily, the way a flower closes at night, Not from effort but from instinct, from the deep knowing that this is what the body does when the light fades and the warmth gathers and the world grows quiet. Your breathing has slowed to a pace that you did not choose and could not force. It is the breathing of the garden, deep and even and unhurried, and each breath in brings the scent of lavender and fire smoke and clean sheets, and each breath out releases a little more of the holding on, a little more of the staying alert, a little more of the vigilance that has kept you awake on so many nights before this one. You are not falling asleep. You are resting. And the resting is a place, a real place, as real as the garden, as real as the cottage, as real as the bed and the blankets and the fire and the sound of knitting needles. It is a place you can return to whenever you need it, whenever the night feels too long or the dark feels too heavy or the thoughts circle too fast. This place is yours now. The garden has given it to you. The lantern holds your burden. The bed holds your body. And the night holds everything. Marguerite's voice comes to you one more time, soft as the last light before dark, and she is telling you about the morning. Not to wake you, not to pull you forward into the next day, but to give you something to rest toward, the way a ship rests toward its harbor, not straining or sailing but simply drifting, knowing that the current will carry it home. She tells you that the morning in the garden is a gentle thing. The lanterns do not go out all at once. They dim slowly, one by one, as the sky turns from black to navy to the palest gray, and each lantern that dims seems to hand its light to the sky, as though the dawn is being built from the collected glow of 1,000 small flames. The birds begin before the light does, she says, a single note from somewhere in the apple trees, then another from the birch grove, then another from the roses, until the garden is filled with a soft chorus that is not loud enough to wake you but gentle enough to welcome you back when you are ready. The dew appears on the flowers and the grass and the moss, tiny droplets that catch the first light and turn it into prisms, so that for a few minutes the entire garden sparkles, as though it has been decorated with diamonds, and the air is so clean and cool that breathing it feels like drinking cold water on a hot day, like a first sip, like a gift. She tells you that you do not need to think about the morning now. She tells you that the morning will come when it comes, and it will be kind, and you will wake into it or you will sleep through it, and either way the garden will be there, steady and patient and full of light. She tells you that you have done something brave tonight, even if it does not feel brave. Coming here was brave. Walking through the garden was brave. Sitting by the pond and looking at your own reflection was brave. Lying down in the canopy room and letting the moths circle above you was brave. And lying here now in this bed in this cottage, with the fire dying down to embers and the lanterns burning in the garden and the night wrapping around you like a second set of blankets, this too is brave. Because rest is an act of courage for those who have forgotten how to do it. It is a declaration that you deserve gentleness, that you deserve stillness, that you deserve to be held. Her voice grows softer and softer still, until it is barely distinguishable from the sound of the fire and the wind and the distant gentle murmur of the garden breathing in its sleep. And you are breathing with it. In and out, in and out. Slow and deep and easy, like the tide, like the sway of the willow branches over the mirror pond, like the pulse of the lantern flame on the windowsill. In and out, in and out. And each breath takes you deeper into the rest, into the warm, soft center of the night, where there is nothing to fear and nothing to fix and nothing to do except exist gently, quietly, completely. Warmest color in the world, the color of safety, the color of belonging, the color of the inside of the earth. The room is dimmer now, and the shadows have gathered in the corners and along the ceiling beams, but they are not dark shadows. They are gentle shadows, the kind that come when the light is not gone but has simply softened, turned inward, become more like a whisper than a voice. The knitting needles have stopped. Marguerite has set down her work and she sits in her chair by the fire with her hands folded in her lap and her eyes half closed, and she looks like someone who has been at peace for so long that peace has become her natural state. The way breathing is a natural state. The way love is a natural state when it has been practiced long enough. Outside the window, the garden is quieter than it has been all evening. The crickets have softened their song to a murmur. The fountain's trickle has slowed to a whisper. The wind has stilled, and the lanterns burn with the steadiest light of the night, as though they too are settling in, preparing for the deep, restful hours that come after midnight, the hours when the world belongs entirely to those who are sleeping and those who are learning to sleep. In the bed, you are aware of the weight of your own body, and it is not a heavy weight but a comfortable one, the weight of a body that has been walked through a garden and held by a chair and warmed by a fire and fed something sweet and given permission to rest. Your arms are heavy. Your legs are heavy. Your eyelids are heavy. But it is the heaviness of a river stone, smooth and settled and exactly where it belongs, and you do not fight it. You let it be. You let yourself be heavy, and the bed holds you, and the blankets hold you, and the night holds you, and everything is holding you, and you are holding nothing at all. There is a thought that tries to form in your mind, a thought from the waking world, a worry or a plan or a reminder, something your mind has been trained to produce at moments like this, when stillness threatens to become real rest. But the thought does not finish forming. It arrives like a wisp of smoke and drifts away before it can take shape, carried off by the gentle current of the garden's peace. And then another wisp arrives and it too dissolves. And another. And each one is lighter than the last, more transparent, more willing to let go, until the wisps stop coming altogether and there is only stillness, warm and deep and absolute, like the bottom of a clear lake, where the water is perfectly still and perfectly warm and the light from above filters down in long golden columns and the silence is not empty but full. Full of rest. Full of safety. Full of the deep, quiet certainty that you are exactly where you are supposed to be, and that nothing is required of you, and that the world will go on turning without your help, and that your only job, your only purpose, your only task in this moment, is to lie here and breathe and be held and be warm and be at peace. The garden breathes. You can feel it even from inside the resting house, even through the stone walls and the thatched roof and the blankets piled around you. The garden breathes the way the ocean breathes, in long, slow waves that travel through the earth itself. And your body has matched its rhythm, your chest rising and falling in time with the garden's pulse, as though you have become part of it, as though the boundary between you and this place has grown as thin and as permeable as the boundary between sleep and waking. And in this space between, in this gentle borderland, something begins to happen. The garden begins to dream, and because you are part of the garden now, you dream with it. The dream is not a story. It is a feeling. It is the feeling of being a tree in the birch grove, standing in the silver light with your roots deep in the warm earth and your branches reaching toward the stars. It is the feeling of being the water in the mirror pond, still and clear and deep, reflecting everything and grasping nothing. It is the feeling of being a lantern holding someone else's sorrow with gentle flame, turning weight into warmth, turning darkness into light. It is the feeling of being the moss on the riverbank glowing softly in the dark, offering beauty to no one in particular, simply because glowing is what you do, because beauty is your nature, because the world does not need a reason to be luminous. These feelings move through you like weather, like warm fronts passing through an open valley, and each one leaves you a little softer, a little more open, a little more willing to let the night do what the night was made to do. They are not your feelings, not exactly. They belong to the garden. But the garden is sharing them with you, the way a friend shares a blanket on a cold night, not because they have to but because sharing is the most natural thing in the world when you care about someone. And the garden cares about you. This is the thing you understand now, lying in the bed in the resting house with the embers glowing in the hearth and the lanterns burning outside and the moon pouring its silver light through the window. The garden cares about you the way the earth cares about its seeds, the way the night cares about its stars, the way rest cares about the tired, which is to say, completely, unconditionally, without reservation or judgment or limit. You did not earn this care. You do not need to deserve it. It is simply here, like the air, like the warmth, like the sound of Marguerite's breathing as she dozes in her chair by the dying fire. It is here because you are here, and that is enough. You are enough. You have always been enough. And the garden knows this, even if you have forgotten it, and it will remind you as many times as you need to be reminded, tonight and every night, for as long as the lanterns burn. The dream of the garden deepens, and now you are floating through it, not walking but floating, the way a feather floats on a warm updraft, slowly, aimlessly, with no destination and no desire for one. The garden passes beneath you and around you, and you see it from a new perspective, from above, as though you are one of the moths, as though the garden has lent you wings and told you to drift. From above, the garden is even more beautiful than it is from within. The lanterns form patterns you could not see from the ground. Spirals and circles and gentle curves that echo the shape of seashells and the whirls of fingerprints and the spiraling arms of distant galaxies. The garden is a galaxy of its own, you realize, a small, warm, glowing galaxy tucked into the fold of the earth, tended by a kind woman with silver hair, visited by moths with moonstone wings, held together by the gentle force of care. You drift over the listening meadow and the foxgloves wave up at you, their bells swaying in the breathless air. You drift over the mirror pond and see your reflection looking up at you, and the reflection is smiling, and the smile is the smile of someone who is resting, truly resting, perhaps for the first time in a very long time. You drift over the birch grove and the white trunks gleam like candles in a cathedral, and the word carved in the bark, rest, glows faintly as though the tree is whispering it to you, offering it like a benediction. You drift over the apple trees and smell the golden fruit, warm and sweet. You drift over the rose archway and the petals reach up toward you like tiny open hands. You drift over the fountain and hear its thin, musical voice singing its one eternal note. And then you drift back to the resting house and you see it from above, its thatched roof and its stone walls and the thin thread of smoke from its chimney and the warm light in its windows. And it looks like a heart, you think, like a warm, glowing heart nestled in the center of the garden. And the garden is a body and you are inside the heart, held and warm and safe. You descend slowly the way snow descends, the way dust motes descend in a beam of afternoon light, and you settle back into the bed, back into the blankets, back into the warmth, and the drifting becomes the falling, the gentle, irresistible falling that is not a fall but a sinking, a yielding, a giving of yourself to gravity and warmth and softness and the deep, boundless patience of the night. The garden has shown you itself. And in showing you itself, it has shown you something about you, about the landscape inside you, about the fact that you too contain gardens and lanterns and ponds and meadows and warm, quiet houses where the fire never goes out. You too are a place where rest can live. You too are a place where the tired can lie down and be held. And now the garden is quiet. And now the night is deep. And now the bed is warm. And now you are here. There is almost nothing left to say. The story has done its work, the way a lullaby does its work, not through plot or suspense or revelation but through repetition and rhythm and the steady, reliable return of warmth. The words have been stepping stones, each one a small, flat surface to rest upon, and now the spaces between the stones have grown wider, and the pauses have grown longer, and the silence between the words has become more important than the words themselves. In the resting house, Marguerite sleeps. She has fallen asleep in her chair by the fire, the way she does on every night when a visitor comes. She does not need to stay awake. The house will watch over you in her stead, the way it has watched over everyone, with its warm walls and its steady fire and its soft bed and its window full of lantern light. Her breathing is slow and even, and the knitting has fallen to her lap and the needles are still, and she looks peaceful, deeply peaceful, the way only someone who has spent a lifetime tending to the rest of others can look. The fire is embers now, a low, glowing bed of red and orange that pulses faintly in and out, in perfect time with your breathing. The room has reached its darkest point, the point where the darkness is not an absence but a presence, a warm, soft, velvety presence that wraps around everything and smooths its edges and makes the world feel small and safe and close. Your body is completely still. Not the tense stillness of someone trying to be still, but the natural stillness of someone who has arrived at the end of a long journey and has nowhere else to go. Every muscle is relaxed. Every joint is soft. Every cell in your body is doing nothing, absolutely nothing, and the nothing feels like everything, feels like the richest, most abundant state you have ever been in, because in the nothing there is no striving and no failing and no falling short. There is only being, pure and simple and whole. The lantern on the windowsill burns. Its flame is steady and warm and small, and it holds what you have given it, and it will go on holding it, and you do not need to think about it anymore. You do not need to think about anything anymore. The thinking is done. The walking is done. The garden has been seen and felt and entered and held. And now there is only the rest, the deep, sweet, bottomless rest that you have been moving toward all evening, all week, all year, all your life. And the rest is here. It has been here all along, patient as the garden, steady as the fire, gentle as the woman asleep in the chair. It has been waiting for you, and you have arrived, and the arrival is not a moment but a melting, a dissolving of the boundary between you and the peace that has always been available to you, always, always, even on the hardest nights. Especially on the hardest nights. The night is at its deepest now. The hour when even the owls are quiet. When the world has turned away from the sun as far as it can and is resting in the fullness of its own shadow. It is the hour when sleep is not something to chase but something to be. And you are in it, inside it, part of it, dissolved into it the way sugar dissolves into warm water. Not lost but changed, not gone but everywhere, spread through the warmth, inseparable from the sweetness. The garden outside the window is a field of golden lights, and they are dimmer now, banking themselves for the long hours ahead, and the stars above them are brighter by contrast, and the sky between the stars is not black but a deep and luminous blue, the color of the inside of a sapphire, the color of peace when peace has been distilled down to its purest essence. You are aware of the bed beneath you and the blankets around you and the pillow beneath your cheek, but the awareness is thin and distant, like a sound heard from the far end of a long hallway, recognizable but remote. You are aware of Marguerite's breathing and the faint pulse of the embers, and the almost inaudible hum of the lanterns outside, and these sounds are part of you now, woven into the fabric of your rest, as natural and as necessary as the sound of your own heart. You are sinking, not into anything dark or frightening, but into the warm center of the night itself, the place where the night keeps its gentleness, the place where the darkness is softest and the silence is deepest and the rest is most complete. It is a place without edges, without boundaries, without the hard lines that define the waking world. Here everything is soft. Everything flows into everything else. The garden flows into the cottage. The cottage flows into the bed. The bed flows into you. And you flow into the rest. And the rest flows into the night. And the night flows into the stars. And the stars flow into the silence. And the silence holds it all. There is nothing more to do. There is nowhere more to go. The story has brought you here to this deep, warm, still place at the center of the garden and the center of the night and the center of yourself, and it has set you down as gently as a mother sets down a sleeping child, and it is stepping back now, quietly, on soft feet, leaving you in the care of the dark and the warmth and the silence. And the silence is kind. The silence is the kindest thing of all. It asks nothing. It expects nothing. It simply is vast and warm and endlessly patient, holding space for everything, for the beating of your heart and the rhythm of your breath and the slow, sweet drift of your thoughts as they thin and dissolve like morning mist. The silence is the garden's final gift. Accept it. Rest in it. Let it hold you. You are safe. The birds have tucked their heads beneath their wings. The moths have landed on the branches of the great willow tree and folded their moonstone wings and gone still. The water in the mirror pond has settled into perfect, unbroken glass. The fountain has slowed to a single, steady drip. The lanterns burn with flames so small and so steady they seem to have stopped flickering altogether, holding their light with the patience of things that know the night will end in its own time and there is no need to hurry. In the resting house, the fire is a memory of warmth, a faint orange glow beneath a blanket of ash, and the room is warm, not from the fire but from the years of fire, from the accumulated warmth of 1,000 nights of gentle burning that has soaked into the stone walls and the wooden beams and the thatched roof, so that the house itself radiates comfort the way a body radiates heat long after it has come inside from the cold. Marguerite sleeps in her chair and her face is soft in the darkness, and her hands rest on the half-finished knitting in her lap, and she dreams the garden's dream, the slow, green, golden dream of roots and leaves and water and light. She has dreamed this dream every night for as long as she has been the keeper, And it is always the same, and it is always new, because the garden is always the same and always new, the way the ocean is always the same ocean but never the same wave. And you in the bed, beneath the blankets, with the moonlight on your face and the lantern burning on the windowsill and the deep, sweet silence of the garden wrapping around you like the warmest coat you have ever worn, you are dreaming too. Or you are not dreaming. It does not matter. What matters is that you are here in this place where rest lives, and rest is flowing through you like water through a riverbed, smooth and continuous and unhurried, and your body is drinking it in, every cell, every muscle, every tired and aching part of you, drinking the rest the way parched earth drinks rain, gratefully, deeply, completely. This is the garden's gift. This is what it has been waiting to give you. Not a cure but a cradle. Not an answer but a holding. Not the end of your tiredness but the beginning of your rest, the real rest, the deep rest, the rest that reaches all the way down to the roots of you, to the oldest, most exhausted parts of you, and says, I see you, I know you, I have been waiting for you, and you can stop now. You can stop. You can stop. And the garden holds you. And the night holds you. And the silence holds you. And you are held. And you are warm. And you are safe. And you are resting. And the resting is enough. And you are enough. And everything is enough. And the lanterns burn softly in the dark. And now the story is nearly over, and that is as it should be, because stories, like days, like seasons, like breaths, must come to their end in order to be complete. And the ending of this story is not an ending at all but a dissolving, a gentle fading, the way the last note of a lullaby fades into the air, not stopping but simply becoming part of the silence, becoming indistinguishable from the quiet that was there before and will be there after. The garden will be here when you need it again. That is the thing Marguerite would want you to know if she were awake to say it. The path will be there, the pale stone path through the tall grass, whenever you need to walk it. The gate in the stone wall will be open. The lanterns will be burning. The flowers will be listening. The mirror pond will be still. The canopy room will be warm. And the resting house will be waiting, with its fire and its chair and its bed and its window full of light. And Marguerite will be there, with her warm eyes and her silver hair and her knitting needles and her slow, kind voice. And she will welcome you as though you have never been away, because in the garden, you have never been away, because the garden lives inside you now, as surely as your heartbeat, as surely as your breath. So let the story fade. Let the words grow quiet. Let the sentences lengthen and slow and thin until they are barely there, like the last wisps of smoke from a dying fire, like the last light of a setting moon, like the last thought before rest takes you and you are simply, beautifully, perfectly still. The garden sleeps. The lanterns burn. The keeper rests in her chair. The moths dream on the willow branches. The roses hold the dark against their petals. The fountain drips its single silver note. And you gentle, tired, brave and beautiful soul, you rest. You rest in the garden that was made for you, in the night that was made for you, in the bed and the blankets and the warmth and the silence that were made for you. And the rest is deep and the rest is sweet and the rest is yours, all yours for as long as you need it, tonight and every night. Sleep well. The garden will keep the lanterns burning. Sleep well. The garden will tend your flame. Sleep well. The garden loves you. Sleep well. Sleep well. Sleep well. Sleep well. The lanterns burn softly. The night goes on. And you are held as you have always deserved to be held. Gently. Warmly. Completely. And there is nothing more to say. And the silence is golden. And the rest is deep. And the garden breathes. And you breathe with it. And out. And out. And out.